So hi everyone. Thanks for having me. First off, my name's Grant Blaisdell. I am CEO and co-founder of Copernic Space. Me as a person, though, I started in the startup space really early. Had my first one when I was 19 years old, originally in Los Angeles, as I'm focused originally on the digital media space. So I got to build on the edges, the bleeding edges of what became the mobile media revolution. So videos and platforms on your cell phones, which eventually got me into blockchain tech very, very early, around 2012-ish, 13-ish. Fortunately, unfortunately, I don't approach it from a speculative manner. I always viewed it as a technology to be implemented to create solutions for markets, or in the case of Copernic Space, create entirely new markets and new foundations for those markets. So I had a few more projects I was experimenting around with digital media then. And eventually, I co-founded and was chief marketing officer of CoinFirm. So some of you, as a lot of you are Polish, if not all, might know CoinFirm. In Poland, we're most known for creating and implementing the trwały nośnik in PKO BP. But generally, we're recognized as one of the leading platforms for analytics and AML for crypto. So I've gotten to work with dozens of ICOs, when ICOs were a thing, to some of the biggest exchanges. You can find articles with me and Binance, to even banks, right? So I've got to work for many years in the blockchain space from a business level, right? But I am third generation aerospace. So the story behind Copernic Space actually starts with my grandfather, who helped build the space program in Poland with Hermaszewski, and his original works around democratizing access to space. Me, myself, personally, I'm also always been a musician. So even played classical music, was in an orchestra, and I continue doing that. As you may remember, my first company was focused on digital media, which included music. But I'm also a partner in a large music company here in Central Europe. You guys have probably been to some of our concerts or festivals, and maybe even listened to some artists that we manage. And also in that company, the executive leadership there is applying Web3 and NFT technology later this year for ticketing, a ticketing application. So I've done a lot in this space, do a lot in this space. By space, I mean Web3 space, but now I'm focused on creating the infrastructure and market for what is going to be the largest opportunity, both economically as well as value on Earth, which is the space, pun intended. So that's a little quick about me. Also joining us is Philip. Philip worked for me for years at CoinFirm and left CoinFirm along with myself in 2020 to launch Copernic Space, and he leads development and those related aspects towards the product. So later on, you know, if it comes up, we can even do some potential demos around the product, etc. But he's also here to answer very technical questions, which usually I can handle, but sometimes they might go a little too deep for me. But either way, that's a little bit of background around myself. Once again, I've been in the crypto space for 10 years, have successful startups under my belt, and now we're focusing on creating really the largest opportunity for mankind, which is the space market.
All right, that's amazing. Thanks for this nice introduction. And now, of course, the question is what this project is all about. But you said before that you have some kind of presentation prepared.
Yeah, we can run through a deck. It always helps.
Do you prefer it, or you just wanna just talk? It's
I'll run through it, and then we can continue from there.
sure. So go ahead. If you can, do you have Can you share the screen? Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Let
me know if you can see it.
Yeah, it's okay. We can see it.
All right. Cool. You guys hear me all right as well?
Yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Okay. Right. So what is really Copernic Space? Copernic Space is a platform, the infrastructure for the space economy, with a DeFi market on top of it. We already got a little bit through my background. Once again, this is a 3-generation long mission, as I mentioned. And, really the history is that this as a concept, as a company, is about 6 or 7 years old. So myself and Lady Rocket, my co-founder, who I'll talk about a little bit more, we were doing and still are doing a lot of activity on the ground with space entrepreneurs, as well as community work around Vandenberg Space Force Base. This is where a lot of SpaceX rocket launches happen, etc. We even have an event there next week for a SpaceX rocket launch. And we realized that the space market is soon to be one of the most valuable markets in the world, but no one ever built a market for it, right? But when we first started conceiving this, Web3 technology was not mature enough to do anything impactful that we wanted to do. And even more importantly, in a way, market mentality, psychology was not where we needed it to be. But in 2020, I saw these two markets colliding, and I left CoinFirm, as mentioned, to launch Copernic Space and create this opportunity, not just for ourselves, but for potentially everybody on Earth. One thing people don't understand about the space market, it is already massive. Yes, it just started recently privatizing and hasn't built any sort of marketplaces, etc., which is what we're looking to solve. But it's already worth $500 billion, and there's thousands of companies that touch the space economy or are trying to get into the space economy. Right? So right now it's worth around $500 billion. Within a decade, it's going to be triple that. Right? So $1.4 trillion around 2030. Another thing people don't see is that there's lots of companies looking to access space, whether that's upstream, which is payload, sending things up in space. Like SpaceX's main business model is payload, sending things up in space, or downstream, which is all the value, the assets that are coming down from all these crafts up in space, like satellite imagery, data, etc. The world is trying to have better access to this. And another thing people don't see is how much investment is going into the space company, or people are trying to invest into the space company, especially individual people. And we've seen this actually on major investment platforms. One of the largest new market segments is space, right? But once again, the problem is where is the market for space? Even for discoverability, if you're looking to do something in space, send something into space, get satellite data, etc., where do you go? There's no market for even discovering it. But let's say there is. How do you buy it? What are these standards in the digital economy to be able to buy and trade or use what we call space assets, right? The other thing is that business processes in space are super archaic and restrictive. What does that mean? That means that if you want to do anything in space, you have to spend many, many months discovering, contracting, and spending millions of dollars on the eventual contract. Space has not been digitized when it comes to the commercial processes, so there's a massive need and opportunity around that. And last but not least is that funding, financing, liquidity in space is also very, very archaic. It's very hard for space companies to find proper financing, and it's very hard for people to easily invest or provide liquidity to space companies. So what are we here to do? We're here to provide the economic infrastructure and the marketplace on top that enables the space market to connect with the commercial and the consumer market, right? And here you see our whole thing is to be able to scale this market up to millions and millions of transactions, right? As opposed to the very slow way that business and investments are done in space today. We've been talking about space assets. What are space assets? Right? It's anything physical or digital that is either going up in space or is related to space in some sort of manner, like satellite data, right? So in our case, a space asset needs a market and needs a place where it can be discovered, bought, sold, or used in some sort of manner. Space asset is an old term, but we feel that we have actually created what is the standard of a real space asset. So how are we doing this with space assets, right? We're using this technology to enable all these companies to tokenize, attach utility, and trade and create a marketplace for these assets. A central hub for people to discover, buy, utilize, trade space assets, right? So when it comes to a space company, it's very easy for them to list themselves on a marketplace and have the commercial market or even you guys discover their offerings and engage with them, transact, and in some cases even create your own space assets out of it. And just how you apply NFTs in a very unique way, NFTs in our case aren't the asset itself. NFTs are a technology that provides certain features, functions, and benefits for an actual space asset, a real space asset like payload or satellite data, right? What about companies, investors, consumers? Now they have a place where they can easily discover these offers, buy these assets, buy these assets, right? Use these assets and trade these assets. So you can technically even build your own space business through our platform, right? So once again, we're creating that infrastructure, right? How is the space economy going to actually operate, right? So on one end, space companies are creating assets. On the other end, we're connecting big companies, universities, and people with opportunities for these space assets. All the while digitizing the whole industry, making it more efficient, streamlining its business processes. There's billions of dollars in value in creating discovery. There's billions of more dollars in value digitizing and creating more efficient processes. And there's unlimited amounts of value in creating a marketplace for all these assets, right? Where's the marketplace where people are going to buy and trade natural resources in space, space mining, right? These are all companies and things that we're working with to create this center for the space economy. So anything you want to do in space, Copernic Space is going to sit there in the center, both on the primary market as well as on the secondary market that we hold. So when I say we're a Web3 company or we're a DeFi platform, we're non-intermediary or custodial around funds, assets, data, etc. But we do control the entry points, right? We do have regulatory processes for these space companies and users to abide by. We're building a real solution for a real marketplace, not something where we just abstractly throw in DeFi and try to pull money out, right? So where are we today, right? In 2021, we started fundraising for our pre-seed round, right? We fundraised from 3 VCs and 2 former Yahoo executives. What did that get us? That got us to be able to build our MVP. So Philip here, who is with us, worked really hard over this past time to build a working product, right? And through building that product, we built it directly with space companies. So you can find articles of us building commercial standards and proof of concepts on our marketplace with space companies, right? So we already built a robust network of partners, space companies, and growing commercial partners to be hosted on our marketplace, right? We already have a user base. We already have transactions happening on the platform. This is mainly happening through Spaceables, because last year we launched on our platform a marketplace just for space culture, right? All the art, the music, the things that people are emotionally passionate about, we built a home for that, and we've been growing a community and user base around that, right? And this year is the year where we launch SpaceMart, which is the main marketplace for space assets with utilities. Because remember earlier I was talking about what are space assets? We see two types: space assets with utilities and space assets as securities. One you can use and trade, the other one is an investment you can trade. Here's some of our partners and supporters. You'll see some names like Astrobotic, that are one of the biggest lunar moon companies. You'll see people like Exodus Orbitals, who are focused on data, because this year we've already built the standard for payloads, and later this year we're building the standard for data, right? So you can see a big wide group of both space companies as well as companies that are in the VC or in the crypto space as well. And current use cases, right? So we created Spaceables last year. That's already working, already generating revenue. Last year we had a member of Pink Floyd on the platform doing a contest. It's a really fun thing, but that's not our core business, right? Our core business is real space assets. So this past year, we built the standard for physical payload. We're going to be launching a bunch of listings and offerings on that in a couple months. This past year, we also built the digital payload standard. So how do you send digital things into space, right? We did that with Astrobotic, once again, one of the largest moon companies in the world. And later this year, we're focused on data and imagery. How do we democratize access to satellite imagery and data, which we really love because that's really going to change the world in a big way. But the big, super cool thing that we're working on this year with Astrobotic is to launch the first open commercial sales to assets on the moon. So you'll be able to buy access through a lander to the moon, attach, send up your utilities, whether it's art, music, data, physical objects, and then also create your own space assets out of it, right? That you can sell on our secondary market. So this year, we're focused on launching the marketplace for space assets with utilities like payload and data. Next year, we're focusing on launching Space Pool on the platform. That's the application that is a DeFi investment app. So this year is the marketplace for space assets utilities. Next year is for the market with space assets as investments. Right? So you can see this roadmap. I mentioned what we did in 2022. We built those standards. So right now we're focusing on onboarding and launching payload sales and other assets on our marketplace. To go along with this, we're launching our space passports. So this is something I'll talk about in a second, something I'm sure Kudo Bartek might have mentioned before. And second half of this year, we're focused on launching the standard for imagery and data. First half of the year, payloads upstream. Second half of the year, data and imagery downstream, right? We're going to do that very well. We're already working with multiple partners for both. And then next year, once again, we're focused on the launch of Space Pool. Okay, so we did a pre-seed fundraise end of 2021, entering 2022. Right now, we're in our seed fundraise and already have a bunch of investments from a bunch of investors in the current round, and are also releasing our passport. And why are we releasing our passport? Listen, guys, if we wanted to, release some sort of NFT thing, based off hype, etc., we would have done it last year, right, during the hype market. But we wanted to build a product, a service attached to our platform that has real utility. So we've built the platform up and the commercial relationships in the market to be able to offer our passports with real utility benefits, both on platform as well as in real life in space. So we've created a 3-tiered, what you would call an NFT collection. We view it as a product, a service that's tied to our marketplace across 3 tiers. Since this is a Polish community, a cool little taste to that is that the supply is 1543. That's the only supply that's going to be available, and that's based off of Copernic's heliocentric theory, the year that it was released. As you can hear, I say Copernic, not Copernicus. So that's actually who our company was named after and for. And a really cool thing about it is, once again, we're not an NFT project. We're a platform for space that happens to use NFTs for space assets. So we're actually hosting the passports on our platform. After I'm done presenting and everything, I'm going to make sure Bartek has a copy of this presentation, and it will give you first access. We only share this with our community for now, onto the actual listing page, right? And we already have one of the main utilities implemented within the platform on the listing page. So you can check that out as well. But once again, this is a collection across 3 different tiers. Each one provides more and more utility and benefits on platform, as well as access to space. And the last one is custom pricing. It's called Astronaut, right? The Astronaut is custom pricing because the main utility of the Astronaut is you get to build your own space mission, meaning you get to pick whether you want to send something physically or digitally, either into orbit, to the International Space Station, or to the moon. Right. So that's one of the main utilities of the astronaut passport. And that's why it's custom pricing, because price depends on where you're trying to send it. Right. So what we're going to do is work with you along with our space company partners to create a payload mission for you and generate space assets, do events for you around it, and see also if you can generate revenue through your space asset on the Copernic Space platform. So to round out who you know else is in the company, I mentioned Lady Rocket. Lady Rocket is also my mother, so this is a family business, once again built off 3 generations in space. As Polish people, if you bought a computer in the 90s or early 2000s, it was either from Optimus, which was Kluska, or Compaq, which was my mother, right? So my mother is a Silicon Valley veteran. She's worked on major contracts with space companies like Boeing and has led major tech companies such as Compaq in emerging markets such as Central Europe. And she's known as Lady Rocket in the space economy, as she's been very active for many years as both an entrepreneur as well as a philanthropist in space through the Lady Rocket Foundation. There's Philip, you see there. So Philip leads our development once again. He's been working with me for many years before ever working on Copernic Space. And someone to highlight there, which you saw a quote from him earlier, is Kevin O'Connell. This is the former director of space at the United States Department of Commerce. He's a legend in the space market and the space economy and has been pushing for the growth and privatization of space through NASA and the U.S. government for 2 decades, 3 decades at this point. And you can also meet some of our venture capital investors there on the right who are also advisors. So right now, once again, our priority is going to market with the Space Mart, with these big first commercial space asset sales with our partners, right? Launching the passport, giving our initial community access to benefits on the platform, better build a community as well around it so that they can actually buy real space assets, as well as we're in our seed financing round. So we have even more fuel in our rocket to make us an even bigger success as we go to market over the next couple months, right? And as stated, next year we focus on building Space Pool. I want to thank you guys for the time. I'm sure there's lots of questions, as there's not often you'll run into things from space. So I'm happy to get some questions. And, once again, we brought Philip on so that you guys can go really technical if needed. And I said I was going to turn my camera on. So just so you guys have someone you can stare at. Hi, my name's Grant once again, and shoot me some questions. Bartek, I'm sure you have some prepared.
Sure. There is many questions. For some of them, you already answered through your presentation, so there won't be as many as I thought I need to ask. But I need to do some deep dive in some specifics. And firstly, I think no one from us, from the audience, from the Discords, no company like you. We don't know much about space business. So you said that there's gonna be chance to send something to the space. There's gonna be like payload. So can you get more specific? What type of things companies want to send to space? Is it just a funny thing, or there is just gonna be like, I don't know, moon mining, something like that? Can you just get more information about that?
Great, good question. So there's two things that are happening in parallel right now when it comes to especially the moon, which is one, the commercial market is starting to be able to access payloads and sending things up into space a lot easier, right? So you're going to see brands sending things into space. You're going to see crypto companies sending things to space. You're going to see a lot more tech companies sending things to space. Because the other thing that's happening in parallel is that the infrastructure in space is being built right now, right? So for example, Nokia this year is sending LTE internet to the moon. So they're going to be testing internet communication from the moon to landers, to Earth, etc. Right? We have a partner space chain that eventually plans on sending an Ethereum node to the moon, right? So they want to create the more financial physical infrastructure for the moon. One of our partners the other day, they have a payload flying up that is a Bitcoin private key, right? We have one of our art pieces from Spaceables, an award-winning initiative called Satellite Rhino that we helped create, and that's flying to the moon later this year. So really, it's almost anything you can think of. The really unique thing about our platform is, once again, there's billions of dollars in discovery, which is, hey, I want to send something to the moon or to the ISS. Here's a marketplace where I can discover who's doing that. Then I can go through a process, share agreements, transact with them. What I get is an NFT that actually represents my rights or ownership or access to that payload. And then when I fill that payload, let's say with, I don't know, it could be art, whatever, filled with art, I'm technically creating a whole new asset. So our platform enables you to create a verified space asset of your own because it's tied to that payload space. You have that provenance through blockchain, and then sell it further on our market, right? So not only can you buy access to space, but you can create your own assets in space. So like with a lot of these cases, even the Ethereum node, what will eventually happen is they will buy the space through our platform. They will then fill it with an Ethereum node, and then they will create a whole new space asset and sell services from their Ethereum node to the commercial market, right? So you can like verify transactions from the moon, because a lot of people don't know is that a lot of like security things are still done through space, because it's the most secure environment. So like there's big banks that do transactions that are secured through space transactions. So either way, point is that there's two things happening. The commercial and private market are entering space or trying to enter space, right? And on the other side is the infrastructure is being built in the space market. Another friend of ours, Axiom, has a deal with Marriott to build the first hotel in space. Right, so we're giving you access, whether it's orbital to the International Space Station or to the moon. And actually, later this week, you'll see an announcement with one of our partners about International Space Station offerings going on our marketplace live over the next couple months. So it seems abstract at first, but most new markets and new technologies are hard to access and kind of abstract at first.
All right, that's very interesting. But it's me from perspective like a just average guy. Don't you think that many of these things that you said people want to send to the moon, to the space, it's just like more for like marketing reason? I don't know who and why needs to have like some private key of Bitcoin in the space. I know that this is secure because no one can reach that, and yeah, it's better than hold it in your I don't know, wardrobe or something, like hide it there. But is there something that can be like really useful for humanity that people can develop and send there, or it's just gonna be like real business, not just like art sending to the space?
I think there's three sides to it, right? There's science and research, right, which is one. There's emotion and humanism, which is two, and then there's business and investment, which is the third. Science and research, for example, universities are some of the biggest right now buyers of, for example, payload, right? So we have a partner, for example, that he is sending, he's going to grow food on the International Space Station because it ends up that actually there's a good probability that food grows better in anti-gravity. And guess what? We're not going to be growing food on Earth, sending it to space, sending it to the moon, etc. We have to learn how to grow food in space. So that's an example of science and research. One of the biggest whales, if not the biggest one in Poland, is very interested in DNA, sending the human genome up as far into space or on the moon, etc. possible, right? So starting to create kind of the foundation for humanity and any sort of research related towards that in space or on the moon. So that's more of like the scientific and research sort of stuff. And I also count satellites in that as well, right? So satellites is really, the satellite stuff is going to be a revolution. I'll get to that in a sec. Then we have the emotion and humanism, right? So that is art. That is, we have a partner, Celestis. They might be the first private space company to send something into space. They've been earning millions of dollars for years off sending people's ashes into space. Right? So there's a human emotional sort of element around that. Art is another one, right? So the other day, once again, we had Scott Page of Pink Floyd in our Twitter space because we hosted a Dark Side of the Moon contest that some of that art is going to be sent to the moon with some of his payload. Right? So you have this whole market that's humanistic as well, where people just want to be connected to space, right? Space is the most ubiquitously loved and human thing that there is, even more so than music, because you can like argue about music, but you don't like meet somebody and then you go, hey, what you think about space? And you're like, oh, you know what? I hate space. Like that doesn't really exist. So there's a big human side where just humanity wants to be able to access the space market. And last but not least, there's commerce and investments, business and investments, right? So a lot of payloads are going to be things like satellites, right? Things that are gathering data and providing value back here on Earth. And when we build our data standard, right, because I don't want to get stuck just on the upstream, but when we build our data standard, that will open up a whole new possibilities of how the commercial market, nonprofits, NGOs, or even individuals, right? Like we have an investor, he's a big developer in the United States, and he needs to get satellite imagery whenever he wants to do a development, right? And right now he has to go to university, go through a manual process, pay them a bunch of money just to get one image. Whereas through our platform, they'll be able to go find a provider, buy a license for one image, and use the NFT to access an API to actually query that image under that license. Right. So the thing around the average consumer, it's up to the average consumer what they really want to put up there. But there's billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars of satellites, of technological equipment, of business, let's say, assets going up there that are going to be generating value for life on Earth. So like we have another friend that actually is sending people's DNA into space. So I think it's really, you can't look at the space market like a single narrow segment. You have to look at it as a market that touches everything, just like crypto and Web3, or just like internet and web was. It is a market that is going to touch every single type of industry and person. And it's already touching every industry and person. You know, the computer I'm using is space tech originally, etc. So people just have never been given access or understanding that these things are accessible, and it's up to Copernic Space to build the model and the market, the infrastructure and the market that makes it accessible.
All right, yeah, now that was good clarification. But you mentioned about one thing that I wanted to ask you about. So you will be the main hub for all this stuff to buy, to go to send something to the space. But for now, as you said, someone just needs data for like construction or something like that. So what's the main how to ask it, where they can go to get all this payload now, send it to the moon, or all this data? You said something about university, and this place is current main destination to go. So how does it look now?
So remember, I kind of separated the platform in three, kind of stages. I was like, there's billions of dollars in value in doing this, billions of dollars in value doing this and this, right? And the first one I said was discovery, which is, where do people go, right? One of the first questions I started asking people when creating Copernic Space, I say, hey, you want to do something in space, where do you go? And I never got an answer, right? What, space.com, what is it? So no one's created the market to even discover all these opportunities. I literally have space companies that come to me sometimes, like me as Grant, and they go, hey, can you help me find a payload allocation to the moon, right? Does one of your partners have a payload allocation to the moon, right? So even for people within the space industry, they lack discoverability. So the first thing is to provide that discoverability towards it. Right now, people have to manually discover the market, call people, send emails, start a negotiation, etc. So they have to manually discover and contact these space companies, right? When it comes to satellite data and all that stuff, the big providers, they're not even going to talk to you, right? Unless you got millions of dollars on the table, you're generally not going to be spoken to, right? A lot of them don't even provide data in an end sort of way for you to even use. So that's why our investor, for example, he has to go to the university he graduated from, IU, in the US, and he has to go to their department and start talking to them and then pay some premium price for them to get him this imagery, right? So the space market never, because it privatized so late, right? It never entered the digital economy. It doesn't have such thing as really digital commerce. The most advanced thing that's been done is SpaceX built a process to where you can start the sales process through their website. There's also a few marketplaces around data, but it's archaic. Like, no normal business or user can figure out how to use it. Right. So once again, there's a big issue around discovery. Then there's a big issue on the actual business process. It's archaic. It's super expensive. Right. And then there's how do you actually buy it and utilize it, et cetera. Right. So we're solving those three things this year. First, when it comes to upstream payloads, second half of the year, downstream. So data, imagery, et cetera.
All right. Gotcha. Now we know a lot more about space and business connected with that. But now the question is, why do you even need blockchain to create that business? Isn't just couldn't you just set up marketplace and someone can put their stuff to sell? Why do you need blockchain in this business?
I'll let Philip come in after I speak, if that's okay, Philip.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Philip's in Thailand, by the way, right now. So he's being a very good Copernic Space team member coming on. So late. So why blockchain? Space is the perfect market actually for blockchain. So one thing is that space, once again, hasn't had that infrastructure, commercial infrastructure built for it yet. One reason why blockchain and Web3 is so hard to implement in a mass way in all these other markets is because you're dealing with markets that have legacy systems, decades of administrative and bureaucratic stuff on top of it. In some cases, 100+ years of administrative, bureaucratic, regulatory stuff when it comes to commerce on top of it. And once again, these legacy systems. So it's very hard to put it in there. Space doesn't have that. It's like an open slate. So if there's any industry where you can easily put it in as its foundational piece, it is space. The other thing, the reason it's perfectly built for space, is you can't have middlemen or custodians around highly valuable, sometimes security-related assets, right? The other thing is that we use things like fractionalization really well in a really unique way, which I'll let Philip get into in a sec. So we can take, for example, an asset that is usually millions and millions of dollars, and we can provide commercial access, utility, and ownership to a small portion of that. And the other one is that we use it for advanced things like licenses, right? So instead of having a central sort of data repository, which these space companies, a lot of them can't even do, it has to be peer-to-peer, we utilize NFTs to act as a license that gives you direct access to that API or that data set in a peer-to-peer secure environment. You can control who has access to what data and ownership of that data in some certain cases. So you want no middlemen. You want to be able to control ownership and access to these assets. And also you need to be able to host a secondary market for some of these assets that allows custodianship and peer-to-peer transactions around it. So space is really uniquely built for blockchain. Philip, do you have anything you want to add from like a technical product level?
First of all, those are objective reasons, right? As you mentioned, Grant, we have the industry which has no foundation and infrastructure. So not only space industry and problems within it, but rest of the world is also adapting the technology that we are all fans of, right? And those objective reasons are also valid ones why we have chosen blockchain as a foundation for the so to say data flow of the assets, right? And of course, objectively, me and Grant, we have years-long expertise with the technology, and that is why it's more native for us personally than even legacy solutions for the applications. So, in my Airbnb opinion, this was a very good choice, and it's a good combination that will pay off in the future in terms of security and transparency and automation, right? Because in the essence, it is programmable assets in any domain, right? And in aerospace industry, and as Grant mentioned, to simplify because our initial goal, right, simplify the hard business process between entities within space industry to let them very quick access to the assets such as services and goods. And of course, alongside with explorability.
All right.
Yeah, the utility thing is really big around using blockchain as well, because you can not just enable purchase of an asset, create an asset, enable purchase of an asset, trading of an asset, but how we apply NFTs is really unique, especially when it comes to utility around these assets.
All right, gotcha. So now you talk a lot about how do you want to democratize all these assets, and as far as I can see, the business like yours is mostly for B2B, I would say, not to B2C. Because can you tell us some maybe examples how this can be used for your platform for the average Joe like me or someone from the audience? What type of things can we do or buy, like I know we can send something to space, but I don't think that someone from here will need to do it, or maybe someone want to do it, but how is it useful for just average guy, your platform? Is it B2C anyway? at all?
Well, there's three applications, three markets built on the platform, or next year there's going to be three. So it really depends on the person. First off, people have that emotional human relationship towards space, the culture of space. You see more people wearing NASA shirts than Nike at this point. That's the reason we built Spaceables, right? Second is Space Mart, which is what we're focusing on this year. Those are space assets with utility, so payload and the data aspects. And remember, our platform in certain cases enables you to create your own space assets with payloads, right? Whether they're physical or digital. So that means that maybe my guess is that a couple people here would like to be able to not just send something of their own into space or to the moon, but also create their own assets out of it, right? That they can have for themselves as mementos, or they can sell and build a business off of. But from a B2B sense, it's B2B to C sometimes, because, for example, let's say, all right, let's go to that Pink Floyd example. Let's say Pink Floyd, which is under Sony Music. Let's say Sony Music decides to send a digital album to the moon using our digital payload standard with, let's say, Astrobotic, right? They then can create their own space asset out of it and create copies of it. They could create 10,000 copies of Dark Side of the Moon that is literally on the moon. And then they could say, hey, we're selling only 10,000 copies to our fan base of Dark Side of the Moon that's literally on the moon, right? And people will then be able to buy this space asset that represents the file that's actually on the moon and actually listen to it as an asset, right? So a Pink Floyd fan just became an owner of a real, authentic space asset through our platform, through a B2B to C sort of level. So just like there might be somebody here where they're like, hey, I have some sort of community, I'm sending something up into space, and I'm going to then sell it back to my community, right? So our thing is, so space doesn't also, which is an important thing you brought up, it's like, oh, it seems like just marketing. Well, our thing is to turn it not just from a marketing expense for a lot of like brands, for example, but turn it into a community revenue building sort of experience that the market can have overall. And that's the second thing, right? So that's Space Mart. And remember, next year we're focused on Space Pool. So this is how people can provide financing or directly invest into not just space companies, but into assets themselves. Meaning, like, I can invest into or provide liquidity to a satellite constellation, and the token I have represents my rights towards future commercial revenue that satellite constellation is generating, and then I can trade this on the secondary market whenever I want, because investments in space, for example, are very hard. Like, you're lucky if you're able to liquidate your investment in space within a decade, right? So we're building, a very strong thing through the secondary market as well for the common person, the common user. It really depends on the person, to be honest.
In my Herbie opinion, also, as Grant mentioned, the B2C aspect is mostly will be focused for the speculative aspect, right? But not only, but also the investment, right? Because there is no place to be to found opportunities to invest even $1 if you want to a space mission or a space campaign, right? You can donate, you can invest, there can be different opportunities. And also the moment that a company starts to tokenize their services they want to provide or their goods, then the resellers can come in, right? If the original company drops their token, then for speculative purposes, people can buy and resell that on the secondary market with a different price, but invest their own time into that reselling, make advertising of that, right? So they're taking the speculative approach for the for the income, but yet helping realize, helping sell the service from the sales company to the end client at the very end of the day.
Okay, thanks guys for that. Now let's switch a little bit topic, because one person from the audience want to get more information about NFT, those passports, those passes. So first, maybe I will tell something that I want to know about it. So as I can see on your website, there is a few, I can say, utilities about those passports, but the question is, do you even need it? Because there is like, this is not essential for the platform. Is it more like for the marketing side of your business, or this is something like, because you don't have a token, so is it like maybe something like a token, and you wanna get some more funding for your platform? What's the purpose? Or
yeah, so listen, liquidity is always nice, right? Having more liquidity is always great. So being able to generate revenues off your own product, your own service on your own marketplace, on your own platform, of course, is a great thing for us. One thing we realized is, in the Web3 space, you need to have something people can be attached to, have benefit from, in our case, real utility, right? To really build up, let's say, your consumer base, right? So the B2C element, right? So that when we onboard our B2B relationships, that we have a consumer base that wants to participate in these space asset opportunities, whether that's by promoting them and earning off that, whether that's by buying the space assets and using them themselves. There's lots of different ways to where we're providing access through our platform and to the space market. So we're not going to deny the revenue part. Like, that's always cool. It's important for us to build a dedicated, loyal consumer base who's onboarded on our platform and is using our platform. As I mentioned, we have well over 200 users already logged in with their wallets in our platform. We're looking to build that up more. We're looking to build a network effect that is really going to push us into the market a lot more, and that provides rewards back to the holders of our NFTs for helping push us into the market, right? And listen, you guys are smart. I've met a bunch of you. I've been in the crypto market 10 years. My first big company in crypto was specialized in exposing things and providing transparency to the market. I'm sure you guys know, majority of NFT projects, and we're not an NFT project, once again, we're a platform for space that uses NFTs as a technology for space assets. And that's how we look at our passports. We view them as space assets. We view them as a product, as a service on our platform. And as I'm sure you guys know, majority of NFT projects, etc., are complete crap. They don't build value either for any product because they don't have a product, or they don't build that much actual value for the community outside of maybe there'll be a speculative hype and people can get rid of it as soon as possible as the speculative thing sort of happens. So our thing is to represent the standard for how NFTs in this market is actually going to look in the future. And it does provide benefits for our platform, for our marketplace. It acts as an engine to provide more usage, bring in more people, generate more sales, and promote us into the wider market. We've had people trying to push us to do this for a long time. I can't tell you, last year, everyone was like, Grant, you have to release, the Copernic Space, the NFT collection, all these NFT things are selling out. It'll get you guys a big community, etc. And we said, no. Right. We said no because we didn't build the platform up to provide, those benefits for our product and for our users. Right. So we got to that point this year. So that's why we're doing it this year. So to kind of summarize, revenue's good. Yes, there's lots of marketing involved in it, but it also enables us to implement features and real users within our platform. So like some of the utilities tied to the passports are actual features on our marketplace.
Okay. Do you even have a plans for some kind of token? Was it talked in your team, or this is just like there will never be a token?
Yeah, so we have plans to launch a token for Space Pool next year. Once again, we're not going to just launch a token to launch a token to get money from the retail market and, then worry all the time about pumping the value of that token. I saw that happen in the ICO market, right? To be able to link something to a product to us is vitally important, and provide real utility through that product is vitally important. So next year for Space Pool, we have something as of right now that just internally is called proof of liquidity token. So this is token related towards investments and liquidity provided on the Space Pool app. And I saw Biotech you requested for an updated white paper sort of thing. I'll provide that to you in a bit, and that has some details. You'll see POL token put in there. So yes, we have that. I didn't want to add that as a utility to the passports yet, as in like preferred access. You'll see in the utilities there. You'll see in the utilities there that it's like access to whitelist before other people for space assets, etc. I didn't add the Space Pool token, the proof of liquidity token, because it doesn't exist yet, right? And I'm not going to promise something to our buyers that doesn't exist yet, right? But there's a plan for it existing, and once again, we're trying to build a platform that sits as the standard for the space economy for decades, right? We want to be the Amazon effect, like Amazon did have for web. We want to be the Amazon effect for Web3 in space.
All right, gotcha. So there is plan for tokens, but I don't even want to go more specific utility of this token, because this is like much further in the future. So I think there will be many changes, because as we know in this space, everything is dynamic and we need to change things, and also market will be different, I think.
We've been in the market for 3 years, and every time we think that we have to pivot, like we do some micro pivots, but they're like micro pivots usually within the platform, to change a few things because, we discover certain needs of the space market or needs of the market in general. But we've really never had to pivot. The interesting thing that's happening is every time we think that we might have to, the space market goes in our direction, right? So you can even hold up, let me share it even right now, which is interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but when we started, right, when we started, only 2 of these companies existed in this map you see here, right? And now half of these companies are our partners. Some are already committed to be on our marketplace, right? And you see us in the middle right there as the marketplace, right? So my point overall to that is that, we're really standing at the forefront of this market, and like the market is going in our direction as opposed to we're having to pivot and adjust to what the market is actually doing.
Sure. Okay, gotcha. So now maybe let's go to another thing. So you said that this is like third generation business. So is financing, what's the financing? There was some investors that put money in your business, or this is just from your pocket? How it works?
Oh, remember I said the idea is 6 or 7 years old. So my mother and I have invested countless, hundreds of thousands of dollars in discovery from our own end. We technically became a company in 2020. For the first year and a half, we bootstrapped, invested our own money into it. As I mentioned, end of 2021, leading into 2022, we raised our pre-seed round at a $5 million valuation. And we got 3 venture capitals from it. Startup Wise Guys, which is a big VC, multinational VC here in Europe. Techni Ventures, which is out of New York City, and Pointer Capital, which is an American Delaware rolling venture capital fund. And then we also got 2 former Yahoo executives as angels. So we got a bunch of financing through that. And now, along with our go-to-market, the passports, we started our seed round, and we have a good portion of that already fundraised as well. But listen, we're doing really advanced stuff, so liquidity is obviously important for us as a startup, as for any startup. But we've been in the market. We're proven, let's say, leaders in our segment in the market, which, as I showed you with that market map a second ago, is a growing segment. You have major space companies already entering it. So we're very confident. But we look for the support of communities and organizations like you to help push us even further and provide even more fuel in our rocket, whether that's liquidity wise or whether that's through community support and promotion and enthusiasm for us as a company and what we do as a company, both let's say from a business value sense, but also with what we do on the ground and the good things we're trying to do for here on Earth.
Sure. How big is your team?
So formally it's 8 people, but we have a bunch of people around us that are committed, work part-time and help us.
So those 8 people are full-time, or the rest is like just part-time or contractors?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Philip has his own, tech team standing behind him. We have a part-time chief product officer who's one of the most experienced people in Central Europe. He's built a known AI product. We have a member of your community who heads our operations, so day-to-day stuff. He's really great, and your community really loves him. Had nothing but nice things to say. My mother, obviously, co-founders full-time. We also have some biz dev people coming on board. So we're growing the team further, and some of the funds from this round are going to be used to especially bring in 2 biz dev and salespeople, one from the space company's end, so I don't have to process most of that stuff myself, which, I've built partnerships and deals with like 20 space companies in the past 2 years myself, practically. But also bring in somebody who knows how to sell to the commercial market, right? The B2B to C sort of end. So we're growing.
All right. And what is your runway time? How long can you exist without new funding or stream of revenue?
Right now it'd be about 5 months.
Okay, and do you have any revenue for now, or this is just, or you have?
We have some revenue through Spaceables, and we're working on some pretty kind of interesting bigger deals in the back. But the first revenue generated, the big revenue, is going to be from the first payload sales that come up over the next couple months, and the passports. And then we'll get into the data the second half of the year. So right now we're just going to be onboarding assets and starting to generate the real revenues on the platform.
Okay, gotcha. So can you maybe tell us more about those payloads that's coming to the platform? What type of companies are you gonna cooperate, and how many of them is for now?
Yeah, so we have about 20 partnered. What we do, our strategy is to build a standard for a certain vertical in the market with a very close partner, and then try to scale up based off that standard. So as I mentioned recently, we built the standard for physical payload, with Lunar Outpost. I saw someone there share a article that features Lunar Outpost, actually. And right now we finished working with Astrobotic, which has over around $700 million in contracted payload, physical payload going to the moon over the next couple years on Artemis missions. So with them, where we just did the digital payload standard. So hopefully for the Artemis missions later this year, you will see Astrobotic hosting access on the platform. Tomorrow, it comes out tomorrow. We'll see when it gets published. I can give you insight. It's a company called Uplift Aerospace. So they're going to be offering orbital flights, international space station flights, both physical and digital payload, as well as some astronaut training on our marketplace. And we're working with some satellite imagery providers to list their licenses on the marketplace for the second half of the year. We'll probably start doing tests on it the second quarter, so over the next couple months. And then next year, you know, there's not a lack of space projects that are looking for money. So when it comes to Space Pool, that's going to be, you know, a lot easier from engaging a space company sense. What people have to know is, you know, space is a unique market. As I mentioned, it's very archaic from its business processes, and it's going through a culture change right now. So like I can hop on a call with a Web3 company and build a partnership, agree to, you know, communication about the partnership within one call. With a space company, that can last many, many, many months. So we've invested a lot of money, you know, really building entirely new standards for the space market. Just building an agreement to do tokenized payload took a lot of effort and a lot of smart lawyers to put together, right? So once again, we're very confident when it comes to this year. We just need to launch a few of these sales and build a precedent on the market to show that you can do it this way. But as some of your users have already discovered, there's companies that are testing things that are similar to what we do, but they're not the full thing.
Okay, but the main revenue for you, there is gonna be like access to your marketplace, or are you gonna charge fees for all the stuff that are listed there?
Every transaction is tied to a smart contract. So we earn off every transaction that happens both on our primary market as well as our secondary market on the platform, whether that's Spaceable, SpaceMart, or Space Pool next year.
Okay, you said something about secondary market that there is going to be also in the future. So how does it look like? So can I buy some like payload from a company and then wait a little bit longer and then list it on secondary market and make money on that?
Yeah, it's up to the original asset creator whether they want that asset to have a secondary market. Because, for example, for some assets, they might not legally be able to offer it on a secondary market, right? So whether it's payload or a satellite imagery license, if the original asset creator enables it, you'll be able to sell it or buy it on a secondary market. So, for example, with payload, you know, it could be either the allocation of payload, right? So like I bought the rights to 1 kilogram of payload, right? If the original payload provider says, yeah, you can sell that on the secondary market, then you'll have the capability to do that. Or let's say Dark Side of the Moon album, I bought ownership of the album that's on the moon, but now I want to sell it on the secondary market. If the original asset creator enabled that when they were creating the asset, you'll be able to do that. And then in the data sense, for example, I buy a license for 1 year of access to a satellite company API or 50 photos, right? License. Let's say I only use half of it. I'm done using it after 6 months, or I'm done using it after 5 photos. If the satellite company or the original asset creator enables you to sell it on the secondary market, you can sell it on the secondary market. And we've also implemented into this secondary market certain regulatory controls that space companies need. Because, for example, there's something called ITAR in space. It's a regulatory requirement. So, for example, American space companies can't sell or provide access to their assets, their space assets, to Chinese nationals or Chinese companies. It's easy to control that on a primary market sale, but a lot harder to do so on a secondary market sale. I have a background around regulatory aspects in crypto and blockchain, and Philip worked, with me at CoinFirm. So, we've built in and know how to build in the controls so that, for example, a Chinese national can buy an asset on the secondary market. So a lot of time and thought and money has been invested into this, understanding how to build a real product that provides, a real function that will actually work in the space market long term, as opposed to just abstractly taking, crypto and shoving it up the ass of space and seeing what happens.
All right. Yes, you will list there are a lot of assets, and some of them you said they're gonna be like changed to NFT to sell it, to maybe do some tokens with that. And how does it look from a regulatory side? Is it gonna be really pain in the ass to work with lawmakers to make it available for everyone?
Before I get into that, Philip, did you have something you wanted to add to the last thing I said? Because it was touching on your stuff a little bit.
From my side, on the interesting part would be to add the whole, to disclose a little bit of a mechanism, how we, for example, for the payload, how we see it and how we implemented that. Right, so we have had 2 use cases for the payload. Just to make clear a few things, we are not focused on the payload. Payload is one of the type of the assets we want to let users to sell on our platform. Right, initial goal is to let everybody sell anything, but for the payload use case, the first one of ours, we leverage the EVM ERC standards to pack all the relevant data to disclose what is the payload from the company, right? So if sales company sells, that is their product that is sold via the NFT, and then the payload itself will be in the form of child NFT, right, which is tied to the origin NFT. So there is a whole hierarchy of the tokens that allows you to track all your activity and interactions with a given company, right? So if it's a complex business relationship, it's not only streamlining the purchase processes, but also it is helping you to build your inventory, your history of transactions. So there are many benefits of transacting on our platform to grow your businesses. So Grant, please continue with the regulation, the most exciting
Yeah, the most exciting part. Yeah, thanks, Philip. That was actually really valuable. So to the regulatory question, Bartek, our biggest regulatory worry is securities regulations, right? AML, KYC, we know how to handle. That's pretty straightforward. What isn't straightforward is the US's SEC approach towards securities around tokenized assets. But that's only a worry towards a few features and functions like fractionalization. Our viewpoint is that if there's real utility attached to it, then it shouldn't be viewed as a security. What we're doing on Space Pool, almost everything that is going to be on Space Pool is going to be a security, right? We are going to go through the... Go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. Just from my Herbie point of view, at the end of the day, we are not trying to build something new. We are trying to improve the existing relationship between existing processes, right? In a new way, of course, building new features and using new technologies. But from regulatory aspect, that should not be a problem. It is a problem and scary topic right now based on the recent activity in the market and a lot of a lot of scams and not really positive projects, so to say, right? So in my opinion, it is a kind of a problem for any valid player in the Web3 space, and I do believe from the bottom of my heart that it will be changed, and the approach from regulators will be more soft in the future, because at the end of the day we are not trying to spin off some bubble value. I mean, we as a crypto community, right? Right now, I'm not talking from Copernic Space perspective, but rather from valid players of the crypto community. That regulators should not see. For example, if they hear NFT, blockchain, cryptocurrency, they should not feel that it is something bad and not trustworthy, right? It should be totally opposite, because at the essence, it's technology to help, not harm, right?
Yeah, so just quickly to add to that, our whole thing is, we're getting away from even using the term NFTs, right? At the end of the day, I said this when we started CoinFirm in 2015. I say this now to this day. Back then, this was, just for crypto overall. This is, of course, for Web3 tech overall, which is, the real success of crypto and Web3 is going to happen when millions and millions and millions and millions of people are using it, and they don't need to know that they're using it. Right. So our whole thing is to get away even from that sort of thing and focus on space assets. We're using this technology to create space assets and provide certain features and functions and benefits for these space assets and the market through it. So to get back to your answer, securities is our main concern from regulatory. Space pool, majority of that activity are going to be securities. And that's the main reason that Space Pool is later on in the development timeline, is because we'll have to go through certain regulatory hurdles and certifications to be able to launch the full Space Pool product. In the beginning, we'll be testing it out probably on a la Gitcoin, a la Kickstarter model, where the NFTs are more like presence with certain utilities as opposed to representing an actual investment in a company or an asset. But once again, securities is our main concern. And for Space Pool, a lot of that activity is going to be securities, and we're going to go through the licensing for it.
All right. On which chain will you be available?
Philip can go into that more. But we're blockchain agnostic. It's a fundamental approach I've had as an entrepreneur in this market for almost a decade now, meaning that we want to be able to quickly integrate any type of chain that the market shows it has a need for. Right now, we're EVM compatible. Built on Polygon, as it has a bunch of features that are better than Ethereum around these sort of assets. But that will change in the future, because, for example, like our viewpoint towards Boeing or NASA or something like that is that they won't want to be on like a public open chain marketplace. They'll want to use our infrastructure to create their own private kind of marketplaces and infrastructures, which, we would extend to them. So depending on the asset, we're going to provide our users the capability to use the chains that fit them best. As of now, we're EVM on Polygon. Philip, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I want to add about the blockchain agnostic approach, right? In the core essence, we don't tie the whole idea to a blockchain, right? We just leverage the medium. And nowadays we use one chain, but the whole idea is to make core data secure, metadata of the core data always available. So we try to stand on the top of the wave for all the technologies, right? We leverage the IPFS, the RV, all the decentralized storage we can. We stay on top and always kind of trying, and Grant brings good partnerships and good direct contacts with the with Polygon, with other alternative EVM networks, with other networks based on different languages, not languages, I mean based on different virtual machines or any other core solutions, right? So our idea is compatible with everything, and at the end of the day, we want to be a multi-chain support. And I'm personally a big fan of duplicate kind of RAID 0 approach of the data aspect, right? Because in our business, it is super essential to have core data secure and metadata available all the time. So if it will be possible, we tend to stare on the all possible mediums. So in the future, imagine if you register your space asset to be sold, it is available on multiple networks simultaneously, and it opens up cross-chain interoperability. And of course, many users, if they're on one chain, they can do it. They can do the interactions. If they're on the other chain, they can do the interactions. So in my opinion, everybody should tend to be cross-chain compatible for the better usage of the technology, and we are not an excuse and we are not an exception in that context. So yeah, I'm personally looking forward to working with many chains in the same time, because it helps to make data more available and more secure.
Okay, thanks guys. Just like two more questions maybe, and that will be all from my side. But if someone from audience wanna jump in and ask a question, maybe if you don't feel a strong talk in English, there is possibility to ask question in Polish. Yeah, and now I will ask Grant a little bit more difficult question, I think, because you said few things about community, but as far as I can see, there is not many people following you, and your Discord is also not that alive, I would say. So what is your strategy to build community, or do you even need to build it? So, but there you have those space passports. So I think this is mostly for the community. So what's your strategy for that?
Well, as a former chief marketing officer who's been in crypto for almost 10 years, first off, most community, Discord, Twitter metrics you see on Web3 projects are fake, first off. We haven't used any such thing when it comes to our community. We are a platform, so our focus is a little bit different than what you're used to from, let's say, NFT projects. One big reason, though, we are doing the passports is because it creates a larger and more committed community, right? Remember also that, most projects rely on their community to function as a business, and there is a certain element, of that for us. But once again, we're a product, we're a platform. A lot of it is B2B based. So we just haven't invested, let's say, what other companies are investing into building community. We've let it happen organic through users on our platform. But right now we've acquired, someone to manage, build up, moderate the Discord, right? Especially as we get into the launch of the sale for the passports. So other than our community and some partner communities, you guys are the first ones to get access to the passports themselves. We just haven't invested that much into it, if you want us to be honest. But that's something that we're improving right now.
Okay, thanks for your honest answer on that question.
Well, I mean, the thing is I could listen, and trust me, I have the capabilities to do so. Shoot it up to 50,000 and hit up a guy so that I give him $20, $30, and he makes our Twitter space have 3,000 people in it instead of 70. Right? Those are all easy things that can be done. But we're a quality over quantity company. And remember, I keep calling us a company. I don't call us an NFT project. So our focus is to bring community members that are interested in what we're doing, want to have a door and be a part of the space economy, which will be the most valuable market, not just economically, but also value it can provide on Earth, and are passionate about what we're doing. Although I hope that the model's built so that our NFTs quote unquote gain in value. But we're not here to attract, the pump and dump speculator type, where people who want to be involved in the early days of, Amazon, the early days of companies that are building the next big markets, and stand to be the foundation for those markets for decades to come once again. So, we're here for the long haul. And I've already been active in the market for a while. So, I'm, for better or for worse, my thing has always been about blunt transparency and building the highest standard in the crypto market. Lots of people have been rewarded in the crypto market for creating complete shit and pushing complete shit on the market. But the easy route isn't the best route almost every single time. So although it makes it harder for us sometimes, we're making sure that we take the best route so that we can be here for decades to come.
I 100% agree with you, and I am on the same page. Like, you need to just build your business good, and you don't need like thousands of people on a Discord. You don't have token to pump it, and yeah, I think that is really good direction from my like average Joe perspective, and crypto degen.
Well, I appreciate that. And one other quick thing to that, you saw this in the ICO market, and you're seeing this in the NFT market, from what was happening last year, is that the entities, the companies, whatever you want to call them, that focus on their token, right? They almost never, ever build a legit product behind that token. No matter what they say and promised, it almost never happens. Why? Because they're constantly focused on the price and the speculative value of that token and not pissing off their holders, not getting called a scam, etc. I'm always going to be transparent about what is the value we're trying to provide, right? And set realistic expectations for people who are becoming involved in the product. And, you can ask some of your community members who have worked with me, like, I'm very straightforward. I want people to know where they stand and what they're getting involved with before they do. And I'm not here to, in English, you say blow smoke up people's asses, which is, we're selling a dream, because every startup is selling a dream. When Elon Musk started SpaceX, they told him, you're fucking crazy and we're not going to give you any money. Jeff Bezos had to go and get 20 angel investors to start Amazon. Musk had to invest 100 million, the last 100 million of his own money, to start SpaceX, because none of the big guys believed that was going to happen. So yes, we're in the business of selling a crazy dream, but it's a crazy dream that we're executing, and the founders, myself, my mother, other team members, have sacrificed their short-term, in some ways long-term comfort and security to be able to create this opportunity in the first place. A lot of good founders have put more of their money in than they've pulled out, even if their startups are worth billions of dollars, right? So, that's the game that we have. We're taking very much like, I was conceived in Silicon Valley, right? But I'm not a big fan of Silicon Valley culture. But one thing I'm a fan of is their approach towards, having a vision and then taking over the market with that vision. And we very much have that sort of approach.
Yeah. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, at the end, maybe I will ask you, because some question like that. So you are building this project for like a few years now, and can you tell us what is the biggest challenges in building it, and also what was the biggest maybe failure you did so far, and what was the biggest achievement for you in creating this business?
Lots of failures, lots of achievements. One big cultural difference between the U.S., especially in the startup scene, and not just Poland, but Europe overall, but Poland is the capability to speak about and turning what are viewed as failures into prideful success, things you're prideful about, things that are successes in that sort of sense. Philip, you trying to say something?
No, sorry.
Okay. So it was successes and failures, and there's one more thing, Bartek?
Success and achievement. What the biggest achievement you did so far?
Okay, right. So first off, being able to launch a company and being taken seriously in what is the most serious probably market on earth, which is space, is achievement by itself, right? I'm not a rocket scientist, right? And what we've said is the space economy needs everyone right now. And for the fact that we were able to walk in the door with a crazy, to what was in the beginning to most people, a crazy concept, right? And I'm even sharing an article here from Space News, hold up, in your guys' chat, where, it mentions us and talks about blockchain in the space industry. I'll keep sharing some more articles. There's loads of articles about us and use cases and stuff like that. So first one was just being accepted in the space economy. The second one was to start having space companies contact us, right? Yes, a bunch of relationships of ours are because I reached out to space companies, but a bunch of our relationships are because space companies reached out to us. This includes Steve Wozniak's latest startup is a space debris company. They reached out to us to understand tokenization and commercialization of data using this technology. So that's a big accomplishment. To be able to build a team, right? And that's a constant improving process, is building and holding a good team. A lot of people don't understand how hard that is, and how having not the right team members can be destructive. So having a great team, people like Philip who have invested themselves and sacrificed themselves for this company, is big. Another big achievement is getting investors to believe in what we're doing, right? And what we've noticed is that our investors are not interested in what is their return on investment in 3 to 5 years. Our investors are interested in having access and being at the table and being a part of and owning a part of what could be one of the largest opportunities in mankind's history. One of our investors, American guy, said, listen, I'm not looking to when I'm getting my money back. I view you guys like, Wozniak and Jobs in the garage. Either what your guys building is going to be worth practically nothing, or it's going to be worth billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. So we have a great group of investors who have entrusted in me and the vision of the company and the team and the product, etc. And that's very big, to get people's trust on that level. You got to understand, 99% of startups don't get as far as Copernic Space has already gotten, right? And most of those startups are selling an idea that already exists, just in some different format, just in some different twist. We've created an entirely new, concept and foundation for space and for Web3 market. And last one I'd say, which kind of relates towards the first one, is just getting space companies to commit. Especially in the beginning, I got to tell you honestly, it was scary, right? Yeah, I've been in the space market my whole life. I'm third generation, but it's very different trying to, speak to a space company mano a mano, 1-to-1. These are genius guys solving crazy problems. But here's the thing. Copernic Space is providing a whole other solution to the market, a macroeconomic solution that these guys aren't capable of doing, right? So it's an amazing thing to be taken seriously in the space market, right? And being able to go to SpaceX and, you know, whatever, talk to Musk for a sec. The conversations I have on a daily basis are really fucking crazy. Like if you were to listen to me just on the bus and I'd be speaking and you would think that there's no one else on the other side of the phone just because we're talking about sending stuff to the moon and things like that. Okay, so failures. I've been a co-founder and an executive in startups before, you know, successful ones. This is my first big foray into CEO. So I'm going to make lots of mistakes, and no matter how great an entrepreneur is, he makes loads of mistakes. But, you know, the real test of an entrepreneur is how they respond to mistakes or failures or falling on the ground, right? So, for example, I could have used money a lot better through the first financing round, but we were testing things out, right? I understood that, right? Also, following your intuition more. Now I feel like I'm giving a crash course on being a startup founder. Trust your intuition, right? Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you, right, at whatever they're doing, but also trust your intuition. So there's a few times where I let go of my intuition, right? And one was investing all of your eggs in one basket. So there was one space company that we invested a lot of time and effort into that, although there are partners still, they ended up right at the end backing out of their commitment, right? So that's one of the big failures. The other failure of mine was not listening to my co-founder and fundraising a lot more money in the first round, right? Which did what? Made me have to go and do another round before we launched our go-to-market, right? So we might already be, you know, a much more valuable company than we already are. And we're already valuated in the tens of millions of dollars, but we might be worth a lot more if I played the investment thing a little bit differently. Because here's another rule for you guys. It's generally just as hard to raise $10 million as it is $1 million. Sometimes it's even easier to raise the $10 million than $1 million, right? So that's a lesson that I learned. Another one is, let's say the last one is strike while the iron's hot, right? So last year we had an opportunity to get a lot of money from the market, but we were so focused on building a product that would actually work in the market, right? So that kind of comes back to my last one. But strike when the iron's hot, because you never know how the market is going to go. I've been in crypto for 10 years, so I should already, know this. So here's the thing. Anybody who tells you they haven't failed at something or is not going to make any more mistakes going forward, they're lying to you, right? I've been doing startups since I was 19. I still make mistakes. So when it comes to the failures thing, it's all about how we react and bounce back to that failures. When that thing happened with that space company, for about 1 hour, I was really sad and depressed. And then I got on the phone with an even bigger company, their competition that's much, much bigger, and I got them to commit. So that's about how you react to failure, right? Because you're going to fail. It's all about how you react to it. So I hope that was good enough, Bartek.
Sure, thanks for your honesty. That was really a nice answer and quite a good lesson for us if someone is trying to build something. So thanks again. And one last question for you. What type of asset would you personally want to send to the space? Is it going to be, I don't know, some record, maybe some art?
Yeah, so I'm a musician too. I don't just have a music company. I still make music, release music to this day. One of my two producers that I use and produce for me, he's one half of Private Press. His name's Newborn Jr. Really well-known and respected underground He's mainly electronic. I do rap music mainly. So the Perseverance rover on Mars is the first rover that's publicly releasing audio. NASA's just releasing audio on like SoundCloud and stuff like that. So what we did is we took those audio recordings being released, and these are like noises of it like moving like and you know some like really interesting sounds. And we created a beat out of it using exclusively the sample. There's no other instruments, etc. It's just taking those noises and morphing them to create a beat. And I did a song on top of it, like from the perspective of what if a rover had a conscience, right? Like I'm just being dropped on some planet. I'm going to be left here to die. You know, what the hell is this? It's kind of depressing, actually. So I did a whole song from the perspective of a rover, you know, with a consciousness. And I want that to be the first space asset / song, like music space asset song on the moon. We'll see if I'll become the first. I'm negotiating with one of our partners to see if I can get it on a mission that's already scheduled, right? That already has all the payloads in it. Because as you guys may have seen, just researching things since I've started talking, you know, there's lots of people trying to send lots of different things into space right now or to the moon right now. So that's my personal, you know, ego, selfish thing that I want to send to the moon is my own song that samples the Perseverance rover.
All right, that's really interesting. So that's it from my side. Is there anything that you would like to add and I haven't asked you about?
Oh God, you know, with a project like this, there's always things that you know can be added, etc. I want people to know that this is my life's work and my investment. Actually, the choice to do Copernic Space wasn't a hard one, even though what I risked was massive. You know, like I said, I have a music company. You know, I'm a musician to this date. I could have easily gone and, you know, done things that are a lot easier to do. This is built off, you know, works my grandfather had. I still have them in storage in Warsaw somewhere. I'll even share some of his works that NASA published. I don't know how he got his works published by NASA. But this is my life legacy in a certain way. It's probably the most important thing I can ever try and accomplish, not just from the sense of, once again, economic value, right? Space is going to be, you know, obviously economic value for myself, but also economic value for all of you. Once again, it's going to be the most valuable asset class ever created, are going to be space-related assets. The question is it going to be a market? Is it going to be an industry that's built on a newer foundation, that's a much more decentralized and democratized, right? I'm not utopian, right? Like I know there's going to be, just like we've seen in crypto, there's pockets of influence, you know, blockchain, et cetera, doesn't kill human nature, right? And that there's bad people who do bad things. But if we can build, you know, something that provides both economic value as well as real on the ground value to life on Earth, it is one of the greatest opportunities you can ever have. I mean, it's the fourth industrial revolution, right? It is the discovery of the new world, right? A whole new infrastructure, a whole new market standards, a whole new rules have to be created for this market. And there's a reason why all the richest, wealthiest guys in the world, whether that's Elon Musk or Bezos quitting his job at Amazon to go fully into Blue Origin, it's not just their ego. They understand that the people who invest in, own both the physical infrastructure, or in our case, the economic infrastructure of space, are going to be the owners of the Earth in the future. So this is something that we've invested, you know, my family's money in, my own money, my own health, because it's a very stressful thing to run a real startup like this, to build something that, once again, is going to stand as a standard in the space market for decades to come. It's a challenging project, but like our investor said, you know, if it works, it is, you know, pretty much the only project around Web3 that, you know, to the moon is a literal thing, right? So I want to thank, first off, you, Bartek, as well as the entire Qdo community. For those who got to meet me in person and share a shot with me the other week, it was great to meet you. I hope this isn't the last time we do this. Once again, this is a topic that we can go hours and hours and hours about. We didn't even really start talking about satellite imagery. We didn't start talking about space debris and data related towards that. We didn't start speaking about space pool, really how investing in space assets is very much different than investing in space companies, and how you're going to be doing similar investments in Hollywood in the future because you're going to be investing in the movies, not the studios, etc. So, you know, I hope to be able to bring, you know, also my decade of experience in this market to provide some more value to the Qdo community overall. But most of all, you know, support an amazing company that's in not just the Web3 space, but authentically in the space. It is important for us, for our passports to do well. Obviously, it's going to be providing real utilities and benefits on our platform, but also access to in real life space opportunities. And we want to provide not just value for our buyers, but through our platform, once again, provide value for everyone on Earth. So I'm open to any sort of questions. I had to move my last call anyways. So I have some more time if people want to raise their hand, ask questions. You can ask me in Polish. I understand everything and can even answer you in Polish if you want.
Yeah, let's maybe wait like a minute if someone wants to add something to that. If not, then this is extremely interesting conversation, and really thanks that you've been able to come to us and talk about this. I know that there is many different things that we can talk about your company, about the space and all this industry, but you know, time is limited, so we don't have all night. But I really I hope that we can do it again in the future. Maybe when you launch something new on your platform, we can gather together again, or maybe there's gonna be some live event and we can talk personally with community about this stuff. But maybe you can tell us one more thing. It's if someone is interested in investing in this NFT passport, how they can do it, and when there will be mint of those passports.
All right, so I'm going to give you guys a secret little thing. This is what's going to be happening. We got a bunch of space companies, Web3 companies and partners that came to us and they're like, we want to buy them now. So what we secretly created in the back is a pre-sale for friends and family, because Bartek, you've been, and the Qdo community has been so wonderful. If people are really interested in it, we can start getting you through a pre-sale process. Otherwise, if you want to go through the general process, this week we're going to publicly announce these passports. We already have hundreds of people signed up through the whitelist, what we call our launch list, because we've been testing it with our community, etc. So you can sign up for the launch lists, right? Remember, the astronaut passport has a different process because it has custom pricing, etc. So you can sign up on the whitelist, etc. I'm putting that in the chat one more time. To our landing page for the passports. So if you're in the chat, I just added it once again right there. That you can learn more info and sign up for the launch lists. If you're interested in getting your hands on it now before it goes to mint, then you can write to me, DM me, or if you want, write to Bartek, and Bartek, I'll give you the form for them to go through. It's up to you how you like to do something like that. But I want to thank the Qdo community and give them, you know, first access along with our friends and family at Copernic Space. Mint, we haven't set the date. We're partnered with Mintify. If you guys know what Mintify is, it's like pretty much the premier like NFT data platform. So we're working on adding a few more utilities such as the 0G flight, because we have partners that offer 0G flights, the company that does that, as well as working with Mintify to set the final mint date. It's going to be in this month, though. So mint date is going to be this month. Launch lists, aka white lists, are already open. You have the link there. But we have a pre-sale for friends and family. If you're interested in that, please write to Bartek or write to myself.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good solution. So just write to me or Grant. Okay, we are almost 2 hours of talk, so I think that that is good enough.
I thought this was going to be a lot harder, Bartek. You were telling me that I'm gonna get all these hard, tough questions. So I'm pleasantly surprised you guys weren't too tough on me.
No,
although
but
I'd like some questions.
But
from people,
you know, it was like we had the question like I don't know what else we could ask you, because there was a question about your failures, about your financing, how you gonna deal with it, and also like why you even need all those NFTs, because mostly when someone is coming for an AMA to some influencer, or I don't know, or some Discord, there is just like really talk, okay, what you do, it is nice and blah blah blah, some stuff like that. We are trying to ask the question like to go deep, and I think that isn't really questions that we can see in the market, and you need to like be more creative in answering those specifics. So if someone has something much difficult, so yeah, they can raise a hand.
Well, you know, we're not yet a let's say a project for everyone, right? We're not for everyone. We're challenging, you know, in a lot of different ways. But you know, buying a book online used to be challenging and abstract, you know. So we understand kind of how the market's moving. And you know, I appreciate that. It's important for me that we're viewed as a great company with with legitimacy, especially compared to.
Oops, something went wrong. Yeah, are you there? Because something, I don't know, happened.
Now I'm unmuted again.
I don't know what happened, but I haven't muted you. I think that this is something from the Discord side. Oh, sorry, it was again. I think that's something from the Discord side.
When I bring up the chat, it unmutes me. Either way, you know, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Listen, lots of you know things have been invested to create this as a real opportunity. It's most important for me that you know people view us as a legit company in this space, and understand the massive amount of potential and value that we're bringing, not just to the Web3 market, but to the space market overall. So I'm really thankful once again for you bringing me in here, and thankful to the whole Qdo community, and hope to speak to you guys soon again.
Sure. Thanks one more time for your time and all the insight that you gave us. And yeah, have a nice evening, I think. And for Philip, good night, I think.
Yeah, thanks. We appreciate it, buddy.
Okay.
Okay, good night, everyone. You can write to me if you need anything.
Sure. They are both on the Discord, so just tag them and you can ask questions.
Go for it. See you guys.
Bye.